As we start to dig into this course a little bit, we want to kind of at least figure out what culture is. And so, in this particular video, we're going to kind of have a short discussion on that. Is culture something that only humans have? Okay. So, we find here. Um, this is kind of a interesting synopsis. So people around the world to survive it have to be meet biological needs. I mean, all animals have to meet biological needs. You know, eating, safety, shelter. They also have to negotiate hierarchies and things of this nature. So there's these universal needs that all humans and animals face. And so what happens is that the way that we solve them is often dependent upon the physical environment that we're in. Okay? Like what materials are available to us, who is around us, what social support do we have, things of this nature. Okay? And so, in this notion here, if we all animals on the planet have to have adapt to many of the same problems, you know, food and shelter and safety and stuff. And so, non-human animals almost exclusively solve these problems using instincts. All right, they're fixed. They just are what they are. But in some cases, you as an individual can learn things across your lifetime. And some of this happens like, you know, when a baby duck is born, they follow mama. And as they're following mama really, really close, they're watching what mom does and they learn through social learning the behaviors that they should exhibit. Okay. However, when human beings are faced with these same adaptive problems, we usually don't use instincts, and usually it's not things that we ourselves have learned, but usually it's something larger than that. Because if you take social learning and move it forward, you get culture, okay? That's what culture is an accumulation of the shared social learning of a group of people, or not people, because that is a question in this chapter, or this video. Okay? So is culture unique to humans? Um, no, but you find, say, for example, on the right, there's an image of a chimpanzee. And it turns out chimpanzees have this problem. How to open nuts. They like to eat nuts, high in protein, good for the brains, but how to open them. And so there's a couple of solutions that could occur, and in some cases, you can use a rock. Bang. But you know what? Sticks work too. I mean, you gotta be figure that out. But sticks can work too. And so it turns out that in a particular troop of monkeys, if you find one monkey does in fact use rocks to open nuts, every monkey in the troop will use that behavior. If you find one monkey uses a stick to open it, then all will use it. And so clearly there is cultural transmission that is going on in these chimpanzee troops. Um, and it's either one or the other. And so it's a lot like forks versus chopsticks, right? I mean, all human beings have the same problem. I got food on this port and I got to put it here. How am I to solve the problem? You know, stones or sticks. It's just a different solution to the same adaptive problem. There's not neither is inherently better or worse. They're just different. And people that are in a culture together tend to share a behavioral adaptation solution. But human cultural learning is much faster than non-humans. Um, Human cultural learning can occur in just one observation or one exposure. Human beings, and this is a larger thing that would go to a learning class, but when it comes to social learning, non-human animals do in fact exhibit social learning, but non-human animals tend to be when they imitate, when a non-human animal imitates another animal, they don't pay attention to anything about the animal they're imitating. With human beings, especially children, children imitate adults that are prestigious in some kind of a way, that there are certain characteristics. And so children won't just imitate just any adult. They'll imitate very specific adults for very specific reasons. Okay? So it's like, yeah, they have culture, but not in the way or the extent to which human beings do. And you find that when we looked at the ways that we adapt, we can extend social learning down into communication and language and even writing. And so we can transmit culture through language. Oh, son, the way that you should solve the problem is, and we can use language to supplement anything that we show. Okay. So we find that human cultural learning is different than animal cultural learning. Um, Mostly in its sheer volume, but it's still fundamentally a little bit different. Okay? A large part of this is because human beings have large mirror neuron systems. You can see in this picture this little baby and this researcher, I guess. They're playing googly eyes. That's what you do with babies. And the baby's like, okay, that's cool. And so the adult then turns, and what does the baby do? Turn. And so that is what human beings do is they imitate. In fact, sometimes the problematic is they over imitate. They imitate too much. Okay? But yet, this imitation or over imitation is crucial because what happens is that when human beings observe, let's say a human child observes an adult solving a problem. When the child is then given the ability to solve the problems, they will fairly faithfully imitate what the adult has done. Pretty imitative, okay? And this is an important thing. It's a faithful imitation. And so what happens is if the adult demonstrates an ineffective behavior, the children will imitate the ineffective behavior. Okay? And so in some kind of a way, imitative learning sounds like bad because you're just going to imitate everything. Whereas when monkeys observe behavior, they're going to look at the behavior, they're going to try to figure out what's happening, what are the objects, and then often what they'll do is they'll modify. Instead of a direct imitation, they'll modify what they've just seen to make it better. And so, in some kind of a ways, this emulative learning is better than imitative learning because they imitate, maybe they directly imitate effective behavior, but they modify ineffective behavior. And it sounds better. And yeah, a 4-year-old chimpanzee and a 4-year-old human, I mean, the 4-year-old chimpanzee will outsmart a 4-year-old human. It's not a trick. Okay? But what happens is with emulative learning, you're implying every single time a culture is transmitted is modified. Okay? And we will find out in the cultural evolution topic that in order for evolution to occur, you must have faithful reproduction. That is to say, the behavior needs to be faithfully transmitted. However, you're allowed to have faithful transmission, and then occasionally you can have a mutation. You can have a slight change to that, and then it is a faithful imitation of faith. So you gradually create small changes to the behavior, and it does not have to be recreated at each and every transmission like it does with emulative learning. Okay? And language helps with this because, of course, the human model can say to the child, what I'm trying to do is, the reason I'm twisting in this direction is, okay? And so by doing this idea of imitative, occasionally put a little bit of mutation and change your behavior a little bit, and then imitate, you create what's called the ratchet effect. That the human adaptive behaviors, they kind of get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better like this, okay? And we do not have to recreate at each and every generation or each and every transmission of information.